Hello and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Joy News Interactive with me, Mapita Sibiri. It's another day to make the best out of it. So go all out and roar. The show is also live on DSTV channel 421 and Go TV channel 144. On WhatsApp, we are 055-815-7074. And on Facebook and Twitter, it's Joy News on TV. So there's been this back and forth on whether or not Ghana should legalize gay rights. The latest is UK Prime Minister Theresa May saying the UK is ready to support any Commonwealth country that wants to update its outmoded anti-gay laws. Watch this.
As a family of nations, we must respect one another's cultures and traditions, but we must do so in a manner consistent with our common value of equality, a value that is clearly stated in the Commonwealth Charter. Across the world, discriminatory laws made many years ago continue to affect the lives of many people, criminalising same-sex relations and protect women and girls. I am also aware these laws were often put in place by my own country. They were wrong then, and they are wrong now. Nobody should face persecution or discrimination because of who they are or who they love. And the UK stands ready to support any Commonwealth member wanting to reform outdated legislation that makes such discrimination possible. Because the world has changed.
And while here in Ghana, many people are outraged. Let's first hear from the chairman of Church of Pentecost, Apostle Professor Opoku Onyinah.
For me, that was an insult to Ghanaians. Yeah, insult to the extent that they were trying to dictate for us. And if you become poor, that is what people will do to you. And that is why the chairman or the founder of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle James McHugh, once said that if you give yourself, if you beg the white man, he will tie you to his apron string.
He said so.
Yes, he said so. And so he did not want us to be tied to the white man, but we should be self-supporting and not seeking money, begging money, and then requesting people to come and give us money. Once you become self-supporting, someone cannot dictate for you. So beyond AIDS policy is something that is very good for us. And once we are able to acquire that, people will not come and insult our integrity, that you have to accept this for us to support you. Because it's against our culture. It's a taboo in Ghana. It's a taboo to Christianity, a taboo to Muslims, taboo to traditional religion. Why then should you tell us to do something that is taboo to all the various social sectors? It's an insult. And I think Ghanaians should sit up and then go beyond AIDS for people not to come and insult it.
Now, how about the ordinary Ghanaian? Let's hear from them.
They are carrying an agenda, obviously.
So how do we counter it?
I think the best we can do is to make it clear to them that we are never in any way going to accept it. It can't work here. Yes, it will never work. Because I know since morning I've been listening to news all around, and I haven't heard any Ghanaian agreeing to the fact that it should be legalized.
Well, it could be possible. It could be possible. For now, I think it's impossible because we take loans from them and everything seems like we are still in the olden days where slave trade was a thing. So I think it's very impossible to counter it.
Of course, they are carrying an agenda in the sense that, you know, right from the colonialism, when finally we were able to gain our freedom, you know, there have been series of policies that they are trying to make us abide by it. We shouldn't bring any policy that will encourage such. And if any homosexualism issues crop up, we need to deal with it as it is.
From the interviews we have been seeing, you could realize that they are trying to impose this gay thing on us. Since they have accepted it from there, and then they are trying to make us also accept it. If you have to sign a policy and they are trying to force us to accept this gay thing before the policy, we just tell them no, it's against our culture.
Now, let's speak to human rights activist who's also the executive director of the Human Rights Advocacy Center, Cynthia Ann Perdue, and she joins us via phone. Hello, Cynthia.
Hi.
So, what do you make of this back and forth?
I think that as a nation, we need to pay attention. We also must learn to listen, and then, allow ourselves to learn. I know that when it comes to the issue of gays,
yes,
we are a bit impatient and, if I may say, also intolerant. But as we talk about human rights, the first question you would want to ask yourself is, what is human rights?
Yes.
And basically, if I would answer that, I would say that they are just entitlements that every person who qualifies as a human right must enjoy. And so the next question is, are gays human beings? If yes, then they are entitled to human rights, And the next argument then would be, is it justified for you to, say, criminalize an aspect of something that is quite fundamental to every human being, that is sexual relations? And what is the effect of that law? And as we are advocating for human rights, you know that fundamentally we are supposed to uphold equality and non-discrimination.
Yes.
And essentially that is what the law on natural canon knowledge does to gays. And mind you, this law is not only meant for gays, because we do know that there are heterosexuals who also have that kind of sexual relationship. So how about them? But it ends up that it's the gays who are targeted by this law or by the public when you're talking about this law. And so then it goes back to that fundamental principle of equality and non-discrimination, which we are supposed to uphold for every person, simply because they are human beings. And so if you look at the arguments in that direction, then you may want to consider taking out that law and then making sure that everybody is treated equally, and then on a fair basis, basically.
So now, as a human rights activist, after all you've said, is this something we should consider?
Of course, because if you look at, like I was saying earlier, if you consider the effect of the law, you'd realize that there are more, there would be more benefits as compared to the negative if you should take the law off. Because the law is what fuels the stigma, the law is what fuels the discrimination. People go out there and they are beaten, sometimes to a pulp, simply because the public thinks that they are gay, and nobody should be subjected to something like that. If you think that somebody has done something that is offensive or that is against the law, let the law work. But because we have this law, people think they are justified. It's what fuels that sentiment, and also fuels the stigma and the discrimination. And quite apart from that, because they feel, or homosexuals feel that they are being persecuted, so to speak, they are not able to access certain basic services like access to health care. And that is quite detrimental. It's not just detrimental for them, it's for the entire public. And so you may want to look at the advantages that would come with taking the law off as against what would happen if we keep the laws that we have.
Now, Cynthia, what do you make of our donor partners sort of forcing our leaders to succumb to this, to legalize the act?
Hello?
Yes, I'm saying, what do you make of this?
Yes, in my opinion, I would say that we are a sovereign state.
Yeah.
And so, yes, donor support is welcome, but you want to make sure that it is not undermining our sovereignty as a nation.
Okay. And before I let you go, should the cultural bits come into play?
Should what?
The cultural bits.
Well, I think that this, when it comes to issues of this nature, it's not for one state to dictate to another as to how to handle it, because of course we are different.
Yeah.
But as we appreciate our differences, we as a nation must also come to terms with the argument in support of, you know, like I said when I started this discussion, I said we must allow ourselves to learn and to listen. Because when you listen, then you get a better perception or a better view of the issues at stake. If you are intolerant and you do not want to listen, then you are missing the point. So when we pay attention and allow ourselves to learn and interrogate the issues, let's have a discussion. And then we know whether this is good or bad. But for me, fundamentally, like I said, every person who is a human being is entitled to human rights. And if there is anything that works against the enjoyment of the human rights of that person, then we must take a second look at it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cynthia. Now, let's do Facebook, where we asked you, so do you feel that the Western world is pushing an agenda, and how do you think Africa can counter this? But like Cynthia said, that we must learn to listen so that we can understand where these people are coming from. And let's go to Facebook with Lawrence P. Jr., who says, well, I heard from a reliable source that industries manufacturing adult Pampers, okay, are those sponsoring the gay thing, all right. And Lawrence P. Jr. comes to say that our government should emulate leaders like Uhuru Kenyatta and late Mills and similar of such leaders. This kind of abomination from the 1% of the population should not give us headache. And Joseph Van Amwa says, yes, there's an agenda by the West that is struggling to be received now by Africans. However, because of dependence on the West, it will come to a time we'll have no option than to accept it, because the borrower is a slave to the lender. And that is Joseph and Amwa. And let's go to Eugene, who says, tell the Western world to legalize polygamy and we'll follow. All right. And Abraham Smith says, you need not to be told that they are rather pushing for the legalization of homosexuality. It is like cash for sex. Stop chasing them for financial assistance. And Muhammad comes in to say that, in my opinion, the Western world has a morally corrupt society and therefore are envious of us. For me, they can't force it down our throats, and so we should keep our political leaders in check so they're not corrupted with money. Nick Von Abessa says, tell them in their faces that it is a no. And Kwesi Chum Jr. comes to say that it is not our culture and it shall never be. When we go to Bar Richard, says, who is pushing who? And you wanted independence and you have it. So what do our presidents go to these Western countries for them to be interviewed in the first place? How many Western countries' presidents visit Africa, and do Africa journalists get the opportunity to interview them as well? Sit in your country and no one will force anything on you, period. We're going to take two more comments on that. Samuel says, we have them in Africa, let them live. And let us respect its nature, every species on this earth to have it, just to live and let others live. Parker comes in to say that, sorry, small baby. And Nana Asante says, it's the most, okay, let's go to, actually we're going to take a quick breather now. When we come back, we'll be bringing you some more. Welcome back from the breather. You're still watching Joy News Interactive. Now, the African continent is home to a large number of young people and simply doesn't have jobs for them all. Youth unemployment is high across the continent. Now, some countries like Nigeria and Kenya have tried to tackle this problem by equipping children with entrepreneurial skills while they're still at school. I mean, teaching children how to start a business at a young age equips them with essential foundational knowledge and skills such as emotional intelligence and risk-taking. It also develops the appreciation for self-employment opportunities. Now, let's go to Facebook to take some of your thoughts on this. Kweku Bulu says, this is why I believe that those who attended technical schools are better than those of us who attended secondary schools. They can start working right away with the technical knowledge acquired from the school, whilst the secondary school guys will be waiting for forms to continue their education. And Prince Nuruddin Baumia comes in to say that this entrepreneurial skill will enable them to become self-employed. For Ghana, we must invest and pay technical and vocational education. Aqua says, my son just bought me 59 CDs with 10% interest with 24 hours duration. He's in the banking business. Smart boy you have there. And Aqua Lewis says, this is great. Let me tell you, in this world, not everyone is born academic. And Valanya Katia says, we are living in an advanced world. And Evans Fantastic says, this is a good idea. And Asinga comes in to say that this is a great idea. So those are some of your thoughts on Facebook on why kids should be taught how to start a business at school. Now, renowned poet and author Professor Kofi Anyido has blamed the lack of documentation of the art on the unhealthy reading habits of Ghanaians. As the world celebrated World Book Day yesterday, Professor Anyido admitted that though the nation has not done well in documenting its arts, music, dances, etc. for prosperity, there's no healthy market for reading. Here's Professor Kofi Anyido reading some of his work.
I saw, I heard, I felt, I smelled, I even tasted a trail of blood across our history's final side. But now I must come again to these lands. I will walk again on these shores. There is something about the place we call home. Something about the familiar contours of the land, about the very taste of air, the essential smell of earth. I think about the morning skies gone wild with thunderstorms, and the evening clouds so restless with rainbow joys, the third cockcrow, and the early morning walk to the village stream, daily nuisance of grass still wet with dew, the Hamilton wind and its biting touch, the midnight hooting of the lonesome owl.
Now let's go to Facebook to pick some and say the problem about reading, I think, that basically we just not for academic exams we fail big time. Prince says it's not too late to make such documentation. Fixing the problem is better talks. And Valanya Akatia says, I agree with my old prof for tackling the facts on the ground. So those are some of your comments on Facebook. Do keep them coming on Joy News on TV. So we asked you if you think this is true, that we haven't documented enough of our arts and our music and our dances. Okay, so now we know we're on WhatsApp, and you know, WhatsApp introduced a new feature. So how do you feel when someone you're chatting with deletes a message? Why do you delete a message during the conversation? And what were you doing before that feature was introduced? Let's go to Facebook. We'll ask you this question. I mean, sometimes when someone delete a message, just like, so what did this person want to say? What if someone, you know, I mean, we delete messages because we could have typed, we had spelling errors, or because we sent the message to the wrong person. Let me try get some of your WhatsApp, your Facebook comments on that. So Kweku comes in to say that I quickly go check from my other app what was deleted. And Samuel Fram comes in to say that deleting a message might be as a result. Okay, let's see what happened there. Okay, let's try get your Facebook comments on that, on what do you think when someone deletes a message. Okay, so the network is failing me right now, but it's okay. That's how technology works, you know. That's how life is. That's why we shouldn't rely on technology. I mean, look at what it's doing to me, embarrassing me on live television. Let's see if we can get your Facebook comments on that. We don't have Facebook comments, but let's see if we've got WhatsApp messages. And unfortunately, we also don't have WhatsApp messages. Today, the network is just slowing me down. I don't know what I did to it. Let's see if we can retry now. And we're trying to connect to WhatsApp, because we were talking about WhatsApp and what you were doing before that delete message feature was introduced. Okay, so even Facebook is, you know, embarrassing me. I don't know what's happening. And that's why we shouldn't rely on technology. Let's rely on our own brains and our own minds. All right, okay, so we can't get those, but do keep your Facebook comments coming and your WhatsApp messages coming. And for the Tuesday edition of Joy is Interactive with me, Mapita CBD, that is all.
An altitude of 35,000 feet and maximum speed of 550 miles per hour. We might experience a little bit of turbulence, so please fasten your seatbelt and keep it on all through the flight. Other than that, it should be a rather smooth flight, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your captain, Baba Bimbo. Welcome on board flight 419, going all the way from Lagos to to Malaysia. Soon as we take off, we have to quickly branch over in Ghana to buy fuel, since there's no fuel in Nigeria. But rest assured, it's only their fuel we will buy. We will not be buying their jollof rice. So the little fuel we have in our plane, we will pray that the Lord will see us through to Ghana. Soon as we leave Ghana, we have to make another quick stop in Cotonou to pick more passengers, since there's plenty space on the plane. So those of you that have empty seats beside you and you've said thank you Jesus, I suggest you unthank him, because that seat will be filled very soon. Also, the engine has been making a funny noise like but unfortunately our maintenance guys could not come to work today because they are stuck in a queue for fuel. So we just have to play it by ear and trust that Jesus will take the wheel, literally, if that turns to boom 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 boom. What else? Anything else? So yes, the seat belt is not working, so I suggest you hold on vigorously to your neighbor, or you hold on to Jesus. I personally suggest Jesus because he's the solid rock. So with these few points of mine, I hope I've been able to convince you and not to confuse you. It is only by the grace of God that we will actually make it to Malaysia today. So please on the flight and say, because the Lord is our shepherd, we shall not crash.